And now a tradition of this congregation, a reading of the Governor's Thanksgiving Day Proclamation.
Whereas, after the first harvest in 1621, 50 pilgrims gathered with their neighbors, 100 Pokanoket, Wampanoag Native Americans, broke bread. They gave thanks for their new world, new life in Plymouth, observing the first Thanksgiving in the American British colonies. And
whereas, during the American Revolution in November 1777, the Continental Congress proclaimed the day of Thanksgiving. Samuel Adams, the son of Massachusetts, wrote, "The solemn thanksgiving and praise, that with one heart and one voice, the good people may express the grateful feelings of their hearts and consecrate themselves to the service of their divine benefactor in."
Whereas, with the country torn by civil war, Abraham Lincoln urged his fellow Americans to gather and give thanks during one of the most difficult times of our nation's history, establishing Thanksgiving as a national holiday in 1864 and
whereas Lincoln wrote, "To these bounties, which are so constantly enjoyed that we are prone to forget the source from which they come, others have been added, which are so extraordinary in nature that they cannot fail to penetrate and soften even the heart which is habitually insensible to the ever-watchful providence of Almighty God." And
whereas in this season of thanks, we should take the time to remember and reach out to our neighbors in need by providing a helping hand, working in a food pantry or kitchen, donating clothing, or volunteering in our communities. And
whereas today, as families and friends across the Commonwealth and country gather together, may we be mindful of our gifts and talents, our blessings, relationships and goodwill, the peace we enjoy, the liberty we cherish, and the hope we have for a joyful year ahead.
Now, therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 23rd, 2017 to be Thanksgiving Day and urge all citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance.
given at the Executive Chamber in Boston this first day of November in the year 2018, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 241st, by His Excellency Charles D. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth.
They are both recalling an evening they spent many, many years ago.
We met at 9.
We met at 8.
I was on time.
No, you were late.
Yes, I remember it well. We dined with friends.
We dined alone.
A tenor.
A baritone.
Yes, I remember it well. That dazzling April moon.
There was none that night. And the month was June.
That's right. That's right.
It warms my heart to know that you remember still the way you do.
Yes, I remember it well. How often I thought of that Friday
Mondays.
when we had our last rendezvous. And somehow I foolishly wondered if you might, by some chance, be thinking of it too. That carriage ride,
You walked me home.
you lost a glove.
I lost a comb.
Yes, I remember it well. That brilliant sky,
We had some rain
those Russian songs.
from sunny Spain.
Yes, I remember it well. You wore a gown of gold.
I was all in blue.
Am I getting old?
Oh no, not you. How strong you were, how young and gay, a prince of love in every way.
Yes, I remember it well.
Celebrating the power and mystery of memory, recalling the words of the poet Maya Angelou, who states, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, I've learned that people will forget what you did, but people will always remember how you made them feel."
On this very place we call Salem, Native Americans lived for thousands of years. In fact, there were many, many great civilizations here in America before people came from over the ocean, from the European continent. There were also many, many special plants and animals that lived here for thousands of years.
Your mic's not working.
Is that better? When the Europeans came from across the oceans, they arrived in the Americas and they were amazed at the wonderful native life of this continent. Today, the whole world enjoys all the truly marvelous foods that are originated in the Americas. In fact, these foods are so important to us today that we actually forget that 500 years ago, they were not part of the diet of the entire world. So while we are remembering what we are thankful for this Thanksgiving, let's remember what fabulous foods the Americans gave us, and we're about to look at some of them. So let me see what I have in my special bag here. Who knows what this is? Who's up close and can see it? Go ahead, yell it out. Corn. Corn. It is a can of corn. Who knows what this is? Popcorn. Can you imagine trying to live without corn and popcorn and maybe tortilla chips and all the wonderful things that we get from corn? We can thank the Americans for corn. Let's see what else I have in my bag. I know this is everyone's favorite this time of year. A squash. Can you imagine having Thanksgiving without squash? Well, how about Halloween without pumpkins? Because pumpkins are another thing that are native to the Americas. So we can thank the Americans for squash and pumpkins. How about, who knows what this is? A potato. I know everyone here loves a potato, right? Mashed potato. You don't love a potato? Hold on. How about this? Who loves potato chips? That's a little better. We can thank the Americans for the potato, and not just the potato, but who knows what this is? A yam or a sweet potato, I don't know the difference, but I do know that it originated in the Americas, so we can thank the Americans for this. Wait, I have some more things in my bag here. Who knows what this is? Cranberries. Now you all knew cranberries were native to America, right? Who is the biggest producer of cranberries? So I would like to think, but I looked it up and it's actually Canada. But you know what? They are part of the Americas too, so it's all good. Okay, now this one I have a photo of, and we're gonna see who can guess what it is. Hold on. What is this? Who? I can tell you, it's gonna be your favorite thing. Oh, someone yelled it out. Cocoa beans. Who knew that cocoa and chocolate were not even thought of by Europeans? It was an American thing. Imagine having no hot chocolate ever. Good thing we had cocoa in the Americas. What's this? You all love fresh tomatoes, right? Say, please share that tomato, Miss Deb. No? How about spaghetti sauce? Can you imagine that until about 500 years ago, Italy had no tomatoes? No tomato sauce, no pizza? Unbelievable. One tricky last one? Well, second last. Who knows what this is? Vanilla beans, you guys are very good. Vanilla is another thing that came from the Americas. Can you imagine no vanilla, no chocolate, no potato chips? How did the world get by without the Americas? One last one for Thanksgiving. Turkeys. How did we manage Thanksgiving? Well, maybe we had a turkey, we don't know. Maybe they had turkey on the first Thanksgiving. So these are all the things we have to be thankful for that the Americas gave us. Let us pray.
Divine powers that be, remind us of all that has gone before to bring us the wonderful, diverse world in which we live. Go now in peace.
I will
years ago, my college classmate, Robert Krolwich, asked me to help him research what really happened on the first Thanksgiving meal. And later on, he used the fruits of his labor and my humble assistance to have a piece on National Public Radio. And he asked and answered a few questions. The first was, how long did that first Thanksgiving dinner last? Well, it wasn't a dinner. It lasted for 3 days. And who was there? Well, about 50 pilgrims came, plus 90 Wampanoag Indians. About 2 of every 3 people there was a Wampanoag. Was it a family event? Were there women and children there? No, absolutely not. The only eyewitness mentions men. It was a political gathering, really. Was it held indoors at a big table? No, it was held outdoors. The English houses were way too small to accommodate so many people. Now that's the version we researched. But then I talked to Ramona Peters, who is the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe's Historic Preservation Officer, and she laughed when she heard what I had to say. And I asked her, well, what really happened? She said, we made a treaty, that's why we were there. We made a treaty with Carver, the first governor of the colony. They had their charter, which was still under the jurisdiction of the Indian king, so it was a treaty between nations, our nation and the English nation. The treaty basically said we would let them be there and we would protect them against any enemies, and they would protect us from any of ours. It was basically I'll watch your back, you watch my back agreement. Later on, we collaborated on jurisdictions and so had the beginnings of an agreement of how we could live together. She went on to describe their version of the first meal. She said, you probably heard the story of how the trader Squanto assisted in their planting of corn. So this was their first successful harvest, and they were celebrating that harvest and planning a day of Thanksgiving. And it's kind of what the people in Texas do when they celebrate. They started shooting guns in the air. So we kind of wondered what was going on over there at Plymouth. They were shooting guns, they were shooting cannons, and we didn't quite know who they were shooting at, so the chief gathered up 90 warriors and showed up at Plymouth prepared to engage if that was necessary. They didn't know what we were there for. In fact, we were there for a fact-finding mission. When the pilgrims arrived, it was explained through a translator, again that trader Squanto, that they were celebrating the harvest. So we, the Wampanoags, decided to make sure they were telling the truth. We'd seen a lot of other landings like this. Captain John Smith, the Vikings were here, and so we decided to camp nearby. And during those first few days, of course, we got hungry, so our warriors went out and gathered food, ducks, deer, geese, and fish. There were 90 men there. There were only 23, not 50, but 23 of the pilgrims there, because those were all that survived the first winter. You can imagine the fear. You have armed natives who are camping, the colonists, and they were always vulnerable, and there was no protection from anywhere. People forget that they had just landed here, and the coastline looked very different from what it looks like now. And their culture, new foods, they were afraid to eat so many different things. You can see throughout their journals, they were always terrified. And unfortunately, terrified people are often aggressive. Terrible truth is there was no turkey at the first Thanksgiving because there weren't any to shoot when our warriors went out. But she ends, it is a story of hope, the story of possibility that very different people can find a way to support and help each other. And it's worth remembering for that reason. Not contained within one act, one day, or 1 year. As long as you are alive, the story of your life is still being told, and the meaning is still open. As long as there is life in the world, the story of the world is still being told. What's done is done, but nothing is settled, and since nothing is settled, then everything still matters. that possibly be true? Could Squanto really have been a traitor? Turns out there's a lot we don't know about Squanto because in our minds, the story of North America begins when we, the white people, arrived. But of course, the story began long before. In fact, Squanto was born on Cape Cod in the year 1580. Now, he was kidnapped several times in his life and taken to Europe long before the Pilgrims ever arrived. He traveled extensively through Newfoundland and the northeast coast of the United States in an expedition sponsored by Sir Fernando Jorge, an English explorer named Captain Weymouth, town of Weymouth named for Captain Weymouth. Captain Weymouth kidnapped Squanto and returned to England thinking that his sponsor, Sir Fernando, would appreciate the opportunity to see a native from the region. And apparently, Squanto was treated well in England and eventually returned to his homeland. When Squanto was in England that first time, this is 1605, he was taught English so that he could help translate. Now in 1614, Squanto was captured by the English explorer Thomas Hunt. He was captured as one of 20 Indians and sold off as slaves in Spain, where they were exhibited in cages as a traveling zoo. Spanish friars looking to spread the Christian faith rescued Squanto from captivity because he could speak English. He converted to Roman Catholicism at that time. He traded with the Indians, along with a Captain Dermer, and the two of them were very successful. When Squanto finally returned to Cape Cod, he found out that his village had died out. He went to Martha's Vineyard, where he was again made captive because of his traitorous ways and his closeness to the English. Now, a few months later, beginning at the time we think things started, in March of 1621, the Wampanoag decided to put Tonto's skills to the test. Sent Squanto to meet with the struggling colony of Pilgrims, the colony that, as you recall, they had been watching from a distance all that winter. A tribe member named Samoset, who spoke broken English, had befriended the Pilgrims, and he needed help. So Squanto was sent. He was very successful, and he helped them a great deal. The Pilgrims agreed that they would take responsibility for Squanto because his tribe would never trust him. And so he became a guide and interpreter for the colony, teaching the Pilgrims everything they needed to know to survive in New England. But, as helpful as Squanto was, he was also known to be power-hungry and manipulative. As an aside, if you had the life he had, it probably makes a lot of sense, but... So, the Pilgrims started to wonder about how loyal Squanto was and appointed a second Native American advisor, Hobomok, to assist Squanto and to keep Squanto in check. Now Squanto, fearing that he had lost his position of power, decided to exploit the fear and distrust still lingering between the Native Americans and the English in order to build his power as a native leader and get revenge against the Wampanoag for his previous activities. And by the way, this telling of the story is not from the English side. This is, again, the story as it's told by the historians of the Wampanoag tribe. So, Squanto became a paid spy and saboteur for Pilgrim Governor William Bradford. He told Bradford about all the movements of the Wampanoag. They caught him trying to burn a village, and Miles Standish, a pilgrim with a military background, went to find him. When Standish found him, he paid a ransom and Squanto rejoined the Pilgrims, considering himself lucky. Squanto liked rumors. He liked to pass rumors around, and he would pass rumors that this tribe was after that tribe and was after the English. And yet Governor Bradford still loved him, even though Massasoit and Wampanoag were furious with Squanto. As a result of his perceived treachery, Squanto was completely shunned by the Wampanoags, and he had to stick close to the English. Now, Squanto died of Indian fever on an expedition for Governor Bradford. He was 42 years old, and Bradford wrote of remembering Squanto's love and of the very great loss that the Pilgrims felt. The terrible truth is that Squanto was a traitor, at least to his own people. And the first Thanksgiving wasn't a turkey-centered, jolly family affair, but the story of hope, the story of people and possibilities, the chance that people who are very, very different and very, very challenged can find a way to support and accept each other is a memory worth taking with us into Thanksgiving. We think of community now in the name of hope, dream of memories that can pull us together into the future. Benedictus, benedicat, may those of us who are blessed, bless the world. Amen.
Amen.